Let's talk about Obi Toppin and Isaiah Hartenstein. I'm grabbing the under on Obi Toppin today. First, as always, I want to recap last night's picks. The first slip did not hit here, and the second slip did not hit either down here. So when there's DNPs, always refund, guys. I've said this in previous videos, but you do not want to revert down to that 3 power. So this is why I refunded it in this specific case. Onto the board, Obi Toppin. I'm thinking it's time to take the under on this player here. Obviously, everyone is riding him on the last 5. He did clear it in game 1 versus Knicks. He got 12 points, and he was an absolute universe in the Milwaukee Bucks, as we see by this last 5 chart. But I do think it might be time to take the under here. Let's take a look into it a bit deeper. If we go over to Obi Toppin stats, we're going to see versus the New York Knicks, he did clear it last game. He got 19 minutes, 12 points. Now, this 12-point number is very important because Obi Toppin's one of those players who takes threes, and he shot 2 of 3 last game. It means if he would have missed just 1 more of those threes, he would have got exactly 9 points, cashing the under 9.5. So it's something to think about. He shot 5 of 7 from 2, 2 of 3 from 3. Pretty efficient shooting night versus the Knicks. If you check every other game versus Knicks, on top of that, game 1 was super high pace, much higher pace than expected. So you're going to see 121 to 117. That's about 240 points last game. And if you go over to what's expected tonight, about 218.5 points. I'm assuming it was something similar last game. So they shot way above that. That's at least another 10 points per team. If we go over to the team props for tonight's game, you're going to see 106.5 total on the Pacers. So they got about 10 points more than expected. And of course, every point is going to matter. Now, if you look at them in the Milwaukee series, which was a much higher pace matchup, you're going to see 120 points here, 126, 121, 125, and you'll see 2 games where the Pacers only cracked 92 points and 94 points. On one of those games, he cleared the over 9.5 points. Honestly, on pretty poor shooting, 3 of 7 and 2 of 5. But the other game, he only clocked in at 13 minutes and got 4 points. I think the biggest mistake people are making on this specific prop is that it's a brand new series. The Knicks are a completely different team from the Bucks. I think last game was a good indication of how he'd normally play versus Knicks, but as I said, where I think things might change is in the pacing of the game as well as his efficiency. So not only do I expect a slower game with less shots, but I expect Obi Toppin to shoot a bit worse tonight. You can see all the games versus Milwaukee, he did not shoot that efficiently from 3. 3 of 10, 2 of 5, 1 of 2, 2 of 6, 1 of 5, and 0 for 4. It's not unrealistic for him to get another 5 of 7, which is already quite efficient, and then 1 of 3, and like I said, he would still cash that under 12.5 points. Obviously, I'm not doing this blind. I am looking at the juice from Sportsbooks, and you're going to see lines are ripping towards his under. This was I like 50-50. Now it's at minus 120 towards the under. If you go and check Obi Toppin on the player props on Bet365, again, you're going to see juice towards the under. And I wouldn't be surprised if this juice keeps coming in on the under. So despite the fact that 38,000 people are on his over, I'm not trying to be different or anything, but I do think the less is the better play tonight. And the sportsbooks agree with me on that. So I'm going to be going with Obi Toppin under 9.5 points as my first pick. I will be making 3-4 powers in this video, and I will be finishing off this slip with some MLB. But first, I want to be talking about Jalen Brunson here at this 37.5 points mark. Honestly, guys, I would just avoid this prop. Like, this is crazy high at 37.5. But I was checking juice on the sports books. It's kind of 50-50. Is he going over? Is he going under? And honestly, it's so hard to say. This is such a high prop line. Like, you don't even see Doncic's line at these props. Obviously, he's been killing it in the playoffs. 39 points, 47, 40, 41, 43. Like, it's absolutely crazy numbers. But I would just actually stay away from this prop. I'm not going to tell you guys to take under or over. It seems like kind of a 50-50 split, and I did not see the juice towards favor on either this. That's just what I'm taking for Brunson. I'm not going to go on his less or his more. Just want to put that out there. Now for Hartenstein, everyone is on his under, I'm assuming, because last 5 he was gone under. Not even close, honestly. 6, 9, 7, 4, and 4 in these games. But the real play was the over. When it was set at 9.5, I'm sure a lot of you guys hammered that under 9.5. The over was the play all along. And why do I know that? Because he's at 10 rebounds now. So in these cases, you really got to be careful. If you really like an under or an over, wait a bit, check the juice on sportsbooks. Like, for example, if I go to Hartenstein here on his rebounds, you're going to see the juice is pretty heavy towards that over at minus 130. Rule of thumb, if a rebounds or assist prop is like minus 130 on a sportsbook or like minus 135, minus 140, it's likely going to get bumped by half a point on Prizepicks. And we see the juice at over 9.5 on Pinnacle. If you go to Bet365, you also see juice towards the over here at minus 125. So if you really did like the under, make sure you're checking the sportsbooks before you're locking in on Prizepicks to see if you're even getting good value. And if there actually is juice towards the over, wait until it gets bumped. Because if I go and take him now, I get him at 10 rebounds compared to everyone who is getting him at 9.5. Assuming you like the under. I would have took the over 9.5. I was about to, but it got bumped right in front of my face. So you really have to think about these things, especially when you're just browsing props from the popular tab. Check the juice on other sportsbooks. Use Outlier, use Props.cash, use something to kind of check these quickly and make sure you're actually getting good value. At the 9.5, the value was 100% on the over. Now at 10, it is a good spot on the under. But you guys are kind of shooting yourself in the foot by taking this too prematurely and just grabbing that 9.5 just because you see this red last 5 and that popular. Despite the fact that he went red last 5, the sportsbooks are still saying the over is more likely. Wait for the bump and grab the under. Now again, this is not a problem I'm going to be taking, but if you guys love them at 9.5, you're probably going to love them at 10, so take the under on that. Enough yapping about props that I'm not even going to take. Let's go over to the MLB and complete this first slip, and then I got another 2 2 more coming. So let's go over to Seattle and grab a triple stack. I'm going with Dylan Moore on his over half a total base as the first one, and I'm mixing this up with 2 more hits, runs, RBIs props. We're going with Polanco on his over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, as well as Josh Rojas on his over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. How does this make sense, guys? I explain this in every single video. If I go over to the MLB lineup, you're gonna see on Seattle we have Polanco expected to bat third and Rojas expected to bat first. As always, if Rojas gets on base, maybe Rodriguez gets on base, Polanco runs them both in, well then guess what? You have an RBI for Polanco, you have a hit for Rojas, maybe even a run if Polanco is running him in, and then you're getting all that correlated effect. Then you're filling all these props together. Now on top of this, we got Dylan Moore expected to bat ninth. Obviously in the first inning, you're not going to see Dylan Moore getting run in by either of these guys, but by later in the game, if Dylan Moore does get on base, it's likely that Josh Rojas is going to be batting within that same inning. He could run Dylan Moore in, so if Dylan Moore gets a base, that completes his total bases prop. Rojas runs him in, that's another RBI. You can see how all these guys being close to each other in the lineup is very, very correlated. And on top of that, since we're taking all overs on Seattle, if Seattle is having a very good game, think of the Texas Rangers last night. If you guys saw, I think they had 11 runs by the second inning. In that case, pretty much their whole team got at least 2 hits, runs, RBIs. Obviously, that's an exaggerated scenario, but just in general, when a team is doing well, they're going to get more at-bats. So if the whole team's getting 5 at-bats instead of getting 3 or 4, then that's a massive difference. Dylan Moore getting that extra at-bat is an extra chance for him to hit that ball and get a total base. So it's a no-brainer to stack overs together from the same team, especially when you have 3 together in this specific case. On top of that, you can't forget the juice, and we'll check Dylan Moore. Juice towards the over here at -120. Rojas here on the 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Juice towards the over at -125. And then Polanco here with juice towards the over at -130. So in this case, you don't need crazy juice, but look for at least like -120 in one direction, because the correlation effect is much stronger than the juice. So as long as you're not going in the opposite direction of the juice, you'll still come out profitable, even if these are only like -120 props. So this is going to be the first step. Let's build something similar in the MLB. This is going to be a full stack from the same game. We're going to start it off with Acuna on his over 1.5 total bases, pair this up with another Atlanta player on Jared, and then we're going to go ahead and grab Matt Olson on his over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Again, it's the exact same concept as what I previously did, but I'm just going to show you the lineups just to show you where these guys are. Again, this is the exact same concept as what I did for Seattle, but just to show you where these guys are situated in the lineup, it is kind of important. You got Acuna batting first with Olson batting fourth, and you could think that's quite far, but honestly, if Acuna gets on base, then Olson is going to be batting in that first inning no matter what. Then you got Jared batting ninth, so exact same concept as what I had for Seattle. We still have that 9. Then we got the fourth batter ready to run either of them in, giving him an RBI. Then, of course, the better the team is doing as a whole, the more at-bats they're going to get. So if the Braves are doing very well, what does that mean for Boston? It means that their pitcher is probably not doing very well. So we're going to go over to MLB Live, and for the first 3 innings, we're going to grab Pivetta on his under 3.5 pitcher strikeouts. So if these guys are getting on base, they literally can't be struck out by Knicks. So that is kind of the idea we're going with here. If Braves are doing well, opposing pitcher is doing bad. And then you still get this beautiful 10x payout. So that is going to be the second slip. Let's get into the third one. I want to talk about one more pick from the NBA. That's going to be OG Anunoby on his under 16.5 points. If he did not manage to hit this last game, he had the perfect scenario to do so. I don't know when he will. So as I said, the last game was very high paced. The Knicks got 121 points. Again, they're expected around 110 tonight. So that's a nice 10 points different. That's going to help slow down the pace, assuming that tonight's a bit of a slower paced game. Now, in 42 minutes, OG Anunoby only got 13 points. He shot 5 of 14 and 3 of 7 from 3. Now, you could argue this is terrible shooting, and he still got close to that 16.5 points prop. But he did hit 3 3-pointers, which is going to add 3 to that total, of course. And he shot 7 3-point attempts. That's the most he's ever shot in the playoffs. The average is about 5.3 attempts per game. So I think this is way higher than it should be. And I could expect him to get about 5 3-point attempts here. So on the 3-point department, he was above his averages, hitting 3 threes. And you could normally expect him to hit around 2 threes, as he did in these games versus Philly. He hit 2 threes here, 2 threes here, 0 here, 0 here, 1 here. And then in this one game, he shot 3 of 4. So this was a pretty good shooting night. 7 of 11, 3 of 4. And he still only got 17 points in this game versus Philly. Even if he would have shot efficiently last game around his normal averages at 50%, he would have hit 17 points, and that's with an extra 3-pointer. So what I'm expecting tonight is a similar amount of shots at 14. That's about around his averages, and you could see he only got above that in 2 games versus Philly, where he shot 17 field goal attempts and 16 here. The rest, he honestly didn't shoot much, around 10 to 12 per game. So on 14 attempts and still hitting 3 threes, honestly, he should have hit this prop last game. And if he didn't hit it last game with the slower pace matchup like Obi Toppin, I'm going with the under. Finishing it off with MLB, I'm going to go with the exact same concept I just went over for the other 2 picks. We're going to go with Tyler on his under 1.5 total bases. We're also going to go with Spencer Steer on his under 1.5 total bases. And you can probably guess I'm going to MLB Live and grabbing the opposing pitcher. So Jordan Montgomery here on his over 2.5 pitcher strikeouts. Again, these players cannot be getting on base if they're getting struck out, so hopefully he strikes out one of them, maybe even both of them. Of course, both these guys are going to get at least 1 at bat during this first 3 innings, so hopefully he strikes out one of them. And that is a very simple concept, and this is a good example of when the juice is not in your favor but you still like it because it's correlated. So Spencer Steer doesn't have direct juice towards the under or the over, but there's essentially a 50% chance he goes under the 1.5 total bases. But again, because I'm stacking this with another player from Cincinnati on Tyler, he actually has juice towards the under 1.5. And if Tyler's not hitting and just Cincinnati's not hitting as a whole team, then it's more likely these guys get less at bats, allowing them to go under the total bases prop. On top of that, because we're taking the opposing pitcher on his pitcher strikeouts, this is all correlated, so it's okay to take the Spencer Steer prop on the under, even though there's not specific juice towards it. That is going to be the 3 4 lines for tonight. Good luck, everyone.